We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our final segment with our guest this morning, Thomas Schwartz from over at Vanderbilt University, talking about, as you see on the screen there, the Syrian refugee crisis. We're going to take a break. After we're done with him, we have a special guest coming on something unrelated that you'll want to stick around for, but that's coming up in the next segment. Let me just ask you, Professor, at this stage in the game then, with the president saying that we're going to look at bringing more people in, what do you think is going to happen, and what does he have to do to make that happen?
I think basically he should be able to do it under executive authority.
So it's not something where Congress needs to get involved.
Will not, that will not be an issue. Where it'll get more complicated, I think, might be if there are sort of efforts to sort of cut off funding for it or something like that. I don't think it'll come to that. It's still a relatively modest number. The real answer or issues in the refugee crisis are going to happen in Europe, with the European Union dealing with that. They are faced with a much greater number.
Why don't they send them all to Greece?
Well, yeah, I mean, but
no, Greece has the money to do that.
Greece is one of the destinations that they go to.
Is it? Now, what is it? Yes. Are they all trying really though to get to Northern Europe?
They're usually trying to get to Germany.
Because why Germany? What's the?
Well, Germany has shown itself to be, on the one hand, welcoming to the migrants. There were images of them coming into the train stations and be greeted with signs and cheering people and all the rest. And in a sense, Germany offers the most extensive welfare benefits. It's got the strongest economy in Northern Europe.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And it sort of offers, Germany and Sweden together, both are doing relatively well economically within the European Union, which of course Greece and some of the southern European countries are not.
Let's go to Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Good, good. What's on your mind?
Okay, bring us you're tired, you're poor, you're hungry, you're lone wolves, you're share of law, and you're strain on our budget. We are already $1 trillion we owe everybody in the world. Drop them relief aid, but do not let them into the U.S. We cannot even take care of our own. We cannot take care of our veterans that were injured or nothing. I feel the plight of the refugees, but the U.S. has always opened their doors for everybody. It's time we shut them. At least let the true refugees in. The ones for economic, we've got poor people here going hungry, kids that go days without eating.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Now, we've kind of established that refugees, in my mind, when I hear this, is that they're trying to get away from a very dangerous situation. I think if things were peachy in Syria, they wouldn't be leaving. They'd be sticking around and working and doing what they're doing. But when they do come to any of these countries, it seems like they're trying to send them or go to places where they already have family. So I'm just wondering, when let's just say we bring in 70,000 of these refugees to the United States, where do we imagine they'll be going? How will we deal with them? Will there be, there's organizations that will take them in, find them jobs, find them places to stay, or they hook up with family?
Well, that is, I mean, think about it for a moment. I mean, Nashville itself took in a lot of refugees from Kurdistan.
Yeah, that's right.
And back in the early 90s, a large Kurdish population here now. And they still, some refugees or some from that initial migration is still coming. I think we underestimate to some extent both the advantages that refugees, especially those who are eager to make new lives and to their contribution to the economy. And I think in that sense there will be organizations here that have developed the skills to resettle people. We have a lot of private and voluntary organizations. The initial report talked about Catholic Charities work for the Syrian. They don't discriminate on basis of religion. They help all of the different refugees. So I wouldn't be as pessimistic about it. And, you know, it's certainly the case that one of the things that has probably triggered the actual departure of many of these refugees is that some of the organizations providing food and relief have run out of money over in the Middle East. And so some of these refugees are fleeing because they're not being taken care of anymore. So we should certainly up the contributions to relief in the area. Yeah. But I don't think it's quite as dire as the caller was suggesting.
Also, it's interesting to me thinking about when you think refugees and they're fleeing a country not for economic reasons necessarily, but because sometimes they feel they're being persecuted or whatever. They're caught in the crossfire. So the demographic of these refugees, Would it be, I mean, we're talking, it could be anyone. It could be professionals. We could be talking doctors, lawyers, you know, we could be talking laborers as well. But I mean, the demographic, it would run the gamut.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're not talking about just criminals. We're not talking about any terrorists or anything like that necessarily, but we're talking, it can run the gamut of folks.
Run the gamut. In fact, in the initial report, the Syrians that came here, engineers, doctors, I mean, this is, yes, a lot of the middle class
people that can bring stuff to the table that is valued by us in this country, not just sucking on it.
Yeah. Oh, no. I think that is a stereotype that I think is misleading.
Okay, good. Let's go to Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hey, good program, good subject.
Yeah.
Where is the UN?
Okay. How about that?
No, the UN is there, but the UN, I think, is also has run out of money on some of these refugee camps. They required more contributions and all the rest from the member countries. But the United Nations, I personally think, sometimes gets overestimated in this. The attempts, for example, to get peace negotiations going have all faced Russian vetoes.
Okay.
So, you know, basically the UN is still subject to the same old Cold War limits that if any of the major powers disagree, nothing happens.
Yeah, and that's been 4 years going on now. Is there any end in sight to this civil war there? What's it going to take?
You know, the Russians are upping their ante. They may be giving enough aid for Assad maybe to defeat his enemies. So perhaps there'll be a military solution. There doesn't seem to be any political one. But the Russians and Iranians and the Iran agreement might allow the Iranians to actually increase their assistance as well. So we may see Assad actually win the civil war. Although whether he could reconstitute Syria, he may end up, Syria and Iraq may end up looking differently. There may be different parts of Syria might go off, break off from it.
Sure. You know, it's interesting as I see all those people gathering outside the fences in Hungary and the like. I try to put myself in their shoes. Imagine you or I, okay, you've got a very good job at Vanderbilt. Here I have a wonderful job at News Channel 5. If all of a sudden, you know, we were in a country where there was some kind of strife and unrest, and me and my family realized we had to go. But we didn't really know where to go. And so let's just say we started making our way up to Canada, and there was a fence there, and you're going somewhere where I don't know anyone, but all I know is I need to get the heck out of here, pulling everything up, leaving your house, leaving all your possessions, just taking what you can. A lot of them walking. They're going to try to walk from Syria to Germany. I mean, just put yourself in their shoes. To do something like that, first of all, how bad it must get for you even to consider doing something like that. And then what you're facing once you do it. You can't do it alone.
Right. No, there's no question. I mean, and that's why, though, actually, most of the refugees are in neighboring countries. And what's happening now is we're getting an increasing spillover because those neighboring countries, Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, can't handle the refugees they've got. So the more some of the refugees in those countries now are going to are making the trek then from Turkey in those boats across to Greece. That was the Syrian refugee boy who died. Was they had already been to Turkey? They were trying to get to Greece in order to get into the EU, in order to get to Germany.
Just so we're clear, too, for this last caller, in your mind, if we do take in, say, up to 70,000, maybe even more, some are calling for even more refugees to come in here, is that going to be a huge cost, in your opinion, to the taxpayer in this country?
I doubt huge cost would be the way to describe 70,000 people and trillions-dollar budget, especially given the role private agencies play. The disbursement of the refugees around the country that happens, the fact that many of the refugees quickly become working or are working soon, so and are paying
just like
taxes.
The one we saw in the story.
Like the one
they're going to work, and is it your suspicion then that eventually Hungary will open up to some degree to ease the passage of these refugees? And do you think the president is going to get more? Are we going to see more refugees coming into this country? What's the timetable?
That really will depend, because there's been a sort of initially there was a great openness, and now they're trying to set up rules again that might limit the numbers. So I'm not sure that it's actually going to escalate as quickly as it was initially thought.
Yeah, I think didn't it say that you know, Secretary of State Kerry, there needs to be an emergency exception or something to bring in more refugees, and you know, Congress has to look at it. And I guess basically what they have to do is ask Congress, not for permission to allow them in, but ask Congress for the money to help them.
It's the money issue.
So the money issue. And so I don't know the sense in this country how Congress comes down on that. I mean, I know Democrats have been calling for this, but we know it could be kind of split there. What do you suspect? And could this become also an issue for the political presidential race?
It undoubtedly will. I think it probably will get mixed in with the question of illegal aliens, in which the focus is more on Mexico.
We already had a call on that.
So it probably could become more political. I mean, the administration might, one of the reasons the president probably only started with 10,000 was the idea of keeping it rather cautious before any sort of lifting.
And we still won't be taking on anywhere near as much as what the European community. Just to give you the numbers as we wrap things up on this, you said again, roughly 11 million people. That's half the nation's
population displaced.
22 million. Half of the population leaving their homes. 4 million have already left Syria, and 250,000 have died in that civil war over the last 4 years. So if the U.S. takes some 60,000, keep in mind there is some 11 million looking for someplace else to go, correct?
Absolutely.
And your take is, I wonder if some of them will end up here in Nashville.
Undoubtedly, you know, the connections here that exist because of our past experience and also because of our thriving economy and the role of private organizations here. I would not be surprised at all if we got a substantial number.
Which we do. We take it on. Professor Schwartz, as always, a pleasure, my friend. Thank you. I mean, it's a complicated issue, but I think, and we got several calls on it, something to think about. Listen, my friend, good seeing you. We'll see you again. We'll follow the situation. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a special guest to wrap up the end of the show. Stay with us. We'll be back.